Yes, hello everybody. I'm Eeva Kallio from the University of Jyväskylä, and many memories came to my mind when I came here as I met again my professor of philosophy, Reijo Vilenius. I started my studies there in the Jyväskylä with philosophy, and then I changed to the department of psychology, so I have a PhD in psychology, developmental psychology actually. Could I get the slides?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yes. My research career has been about development of cognition or development of thinking abilities in adults, which was when I was starting my studies in psychology. It was very rare in Finland, in Europe. Actually, I was the first scholar who did some research on the area, on the field. I was quite a lonely for some times, but then there became also other scholars, mostly in Helsinki University and in some other European countries. And about 7 years ago, we had a first inaugural meeting of European Society for Research in Adult Development, which is a scientific organization which focuses on research of adults in every domain of psychological development, including wisdom and spirituality, which are very clearly said in the introduction of our pages, if you would like to look at them. So after that, I have also been one of the founders of the Sofia Pronesis European Network for Wisdom Researchers, which has only been some years going on. And I'm also a team leader in the University of Jyväskylä in my department of the team which focuses on wisdom and learning. And it was quite a surprise that nowadays some university department, in this case a Finnish Institute for Educational Research, gave a permission to start such a revolutionary research group. But we had one kind of new kind of organization structure actually there in our department, so they wanted to be new ideas to come up. So wisdom has been always my very dear topic, and it has become about this term. Of course, everybody you all know that philosophy is originally love of wisdom. But nowadays there are not so many philosophers who speak or discuss openly about wisdom research. I actually know only one woman philosopher in the United States who has been done job on definition of wisdom and what does it mean. And also wisdom has a very long history in many cultures, in all cultures of humankind. There have always been parables, metaphors, and myths which have been connected to give some kind of allegory or some kind of information about hidden wisdom or some kind of symbols or parables or something like that. Also, it has a very strong religious background, and there are many other different traditions of wisdom. For example, a Hermetic tradition of wisdom from many hundred years ago, and which is still alive in many Hermetic, neo-Hermetic movements all around in the world. And in the time when I started to research adult cognitive development, I noticed that there was one small school in Germany. There was Paul Boldes, psychologist, who started a call one part of the adult cognitive development as a development of wise reasoning, wise thinking. And since that, the wisdom has been a very hot topic of research, and nowadays it's so hot that the number of scientific research is all the time growing. So it's signal something. Very many scholars all around the world are now interested in what is wisdom. And there haven't been any consensus of that, but everybody wants to study it. They define it in very different ways. We can study wisdom in many different ways, actually. For example, from the visual perspective, not only on rational, on verbal content. For example, in Western culture, I mainly speak about that. The goddess Pallas Athena and Minerva were named as some kind of personification and symbols or allegories of wisdom. And it's interesting that they are androgynous, skillful counselor type or protectors and inventors, and also goddess of war and craft. And they always have an owl on their hand, and that this is, if we want to say something about why it's owl, what does it mean? It can be like a dream symbol. It can be interpreted many ways, and there's no one way to interpret it. But I leave it on your mind. Just try to get an idea what our owl does. Why is it connected to wisdom? In medieval times, phronesis, as named prudence, I don't know if I pronounce it right, is one of the 4 classical cardinal virtues in theology. And this is interesting. She's looking at 2 directions, and she's female, I think. There's some connections here, looking at 2 directions, connected to the current research in adult development. Why wisdom is connected so closely to that. I come to it later. Here's also another sculpture. Why serpent or snake and mirror are symbols of wisdom. Be as prudent as a serpent, be as wise as serpent or snake. And a mirror, one can see oneself on mirror. In one way, it means deep self-understanding. So there are very many cultures around the world. We know it in global Earth. We have very many cultures and very many subcultures inside those cultures. So I think it's very difficult to say that there's some kind of common wisdom, but there have been found some kind of common factors in empirical studies. For example, in that famous golden rule, which is common in all world religions, do another what you want to be done to yourself. It is already said, for example, in Confucian religion about 3,000 years before Jesus Christ. So I want that you all time keep your eyes on this, that we are living in many multicultural world, and there can be very many forms of wisdom. Here are some modern major models of wisdom. There are very many, about 30 models nowadays. The most famous it started from Berlin, Paul Boltes and his research group. Then there's Robert Sternberg, who is still doing very important research on wisdom, and he claims that the main aim of any university schooling is to enhance wisdom. and ethical principles. It's about a book about a year ago. He published. He claimed it very straight in the title of the book. Where should universities go toward? Then there's three-dimensional model of wisdom. Monica Adelt, Judith Gluck from Austria, Igor Grossman from Canada, Rickka Edmondson. Rickka Edmondson actually was on this Monday in Jyväskylä. We had a wisdom seminar lasting one whole day. And also Monica Adelt was in Jyväskylä about 2-3 months ago. So they are very active to have this kind of wisdom seminars there. And here are some kind of summaries of about those 30 models, because every scholar wants to have, very narcissistically, wants to have their own model. Everybody wants to have their own name in everything. So these different models have been integrated. And what is the first and most mentioned trait of wisdom is ability to make social decisions, make wisely, and to have pragmatic knowledge of life. Please note pragmatic. So it's not only theoretical. You can have many words, many theories, many models, but you must have some kind of knowledge by acting, by acting in your world. Secondly, very, very important, you have to have a pro-social in your behavior. You have to have some kind of ethical standards. For example, Stalin or Hitler or Mao Zedong, they have been wise in one way in their tactics, but they have been unethical, so they are not wise. So there have been an ethical component in your behavior. And this third factor, deep self-knowledge. Do you remember the mirror in the Pallas Athenes? Was it Pallas Athene or anybody else, or the goddesses? You must understand also your evilness, your bad side of your personality. You must understand yourself. So that is the third common trait which is mentioned. Oh my goodness. Recognition of limits of knowledge, so you must have some kind of multi-perspective thinking. You must understand the differences between different viewpoints and ability to integrate those viewpoints, which is the same as in the sixth, acceptance of multiple perspectives and flexible thinking. So now I'll go fastly. So I briefly, this is my definition, according to what I have read. Wisdom is kind of ideal integration of knowledge and action, so rationality and that practical knowledge, your mind, your emotional balance, and your virtue or ethics. But it's also all the time it's dependent on the political circumstances, as has been found when different cultures has been compared to each other regarding wisdom. There are certain differences, for example, between Chinese culture and Western cultures. Thank you.